Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Chats with Children. I'm delighted to be catching up with Susan Butch, who is the manager. This is a very long job title, so bear with me. I have to take a deep breath. Portfolio management, global service, life science equipment, and OEM glassware at SP Scientific Products. And today we're going to be talking about the importance of equipment maintenance. So, Susan, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
It's nice to be sitting in my own chair doing a chat with someone because for the last 3 days, I've been walking around an exhibition floor in Liverpool doing live interviews at their booths and also from my hotel room doing interviews with people at Interfex in New York. So, which I know SP are also exhibiting at this week. So, yes, it's nice to sit in my own office, in my own chair, and actually sit down calmly and talk to someone. So, it's lovely to see you. How are you?
I'm great.
Right. So, where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from the Philly suburbs in Pennsylvania.
Excellent. See, and that's why people, there is a Philadelphia Flyers jersey on my door just to make Susan feel a bit more at home. And I do like the Flyers. It's orange. So obviously I wear orange. So that's why I got it as well. So it's cool. Right. So before we start talking about equipment maintenance and the importance of maintaining uh, manufacturing pharmaceutical equipment, can you give a quick overview of who SP Scientific Products are and also a little bit about your own background and your role within the organization?
Sure. So SP is a leading manufacturer of laboratory equipment, life science equipment, biopharmaceutical processing equipment, and also we have a laboratory glassware and plasticware division.
Right.
Um, I came to SP straight from grad school. So my background is in chemistry. I have a master's degree in chemistry. I started out with our glassware division for the first roughly year and a half. And now I'm leading our service, life science equipment, and OEM glassware division.
All right, fantastic. All right, so I also know that you have been to one of the live shows not too long ago. You went to Discovery on Target, or DOT, as people like to say in the industry, of course. So how was that for you? And did you launch anything at that particular show?
Yes, it was a fabulous show. I think people are still a little bit hesitant for the face-to-face interactions, but the conference content was excellent. We were there to launch our new Easy2 4.0 evaporator, an SP Genovac product, and we got a lot of interest in that product. It's actually predictive maintenance enabled, so it also ties in well with our service offering and service portfolio.
Fantastic. All right, so let's talk about equipment maintenance. I mean, when you talk about equipment maintenance, people all have their own view of what you mean by that. So when you talk about equipment maintenance, what do you mean by that and why is it important?
Yeah, so I really view equipment maintenance as an investment in the future. It's an investment in lesser downtime and critical failures moving forward. I always like to use the example of a car. If you never change the oil in your car, not only are you eventually going to have to change the oil, but you're going to replace your engine because your engine's going to blow up. And so equipment maintenance keeps you from those catastrophic failure situations and also from getting stranded on the side of the highway somewhere.
Right. But obviously, as a layperson, when someone talks about so maintaining, say, pharmaceutical machinery and that, you'd always say, well, surely the build quality is so good, you don't really need to do anything with it. I mean, so are you telling me it's not good enough that, I'm doing that? So how do you overcome that particular point of view and sort of emphasize why it's so important to maintain the equipment?
Yeah, so a lot of equipment maintenance stems from the equipment design. And so the design often has consumable parts like gaskets and O-rings that ultimately need replacement. Pump oil, batteries, even for some sensors. So you're never going to get away from consumable parts when they're part of the design. You have moving parts and things like that. So it is really important to make sure to maintain.
Right. Okay. Now, I know obviously the whole pandemic situation impacted massively on service engineers being able to go out and see customers face to face and actually maintain the equipment and keep up with their service contracts, etc. So, how has it impacted you in the way you service and support your customers and the equipments that you actually sell to your customers?
Yeah, so At the outset of the pandemic, March 2020, everything started with customers calling up and saying, "Don't come here, we're shutting down." And so we had to deal with, massive cancellations. And then likewise, a few months later, when people started to reopen, scheduling everyone back into a calendar that was already, somewhat booked up. So we really had to staff up to accommodate that sort of gap and then influx of demand. But in the middle there, and even now, we kind of had to adjust the way that we service customers. Everyone feels like there should be more remote support these days. So we did that in a variety of ways with kind of augmented reality, Google Glasses. We did that by increasing our level of documentation that we could send to customers and producing a number of videos as well, just to be able to provide a higher level of support without actually sending someone on site if policies prevented that.
And because you've done that now, do you think that's now become part of your standard service offering anyway? And many customers actually now look at that and say, well, you know what, that actually works for us better than having an engineer on site. And so they sort of prefer that. I mean, what's been the feedback from customers in terms of offering those sort of services?
Definitely. It's still important to have an on-site visit so that we can replace those consumable components that need to be replaced on an annual basis and just kind of get a health check on the system. But we are definitely working to beef up our remote support options. Customers definitely love to be able to just pick up the phone and call someone and get a sense of what the issue could be and how quickly they can get someone out to fix it, or if it's something that can wait a little bit longer. That sort of triage and remote support aspect is critical.
And what about things that you mentioned, augmented reality though? So I remember going to Interpack a few years ago. We're talking 3 years ago now, when some companies were demonstrating the use of augmented reality in terms of servicing equipment, having remote engineering, getting the client to put the glasses on and actually seeing it and doing it. So has that really taken off now in terms of working with customers, or is it still on the periphery in terms of its use amongst clients and giving that as a self-service alternative?
Yeah, I still think it's a bit in its infancy, but I think with everyone's adoption of Teams and Zoom, we're breaking down some of those barriers. With the glasses, there's still sort of a learning curve of, not shaking your head all the time and sort of presenting well with them. But we've had a lot of success, especially in training. They're particularly useful if we can't have hands-on training to be able to show the equipment and you feel like you're there.
Right, fantastic. So what are the sort of main challenges that your customers face when it comes to sort of maintaining their equipment?
Yeah, so most of our customers are heavily trained and skilled users of equipment, scientists, engineers, but maybe less so on the maintenance side. Some of our customers do have maintenance staff that are well trained and skilled, but we feel we have an obligation to guide customers in kind of what maintenance they should be doing on their equipment, how they should be servicing it. And so, we hear a lot about preventative maintenance. We now hear a lot about predictive maintenance, but I always try to tell customers that my ethos is proactive maintenance, which is really just making use of all of the tools at your disposal, whether it's preventative maintenance, whether there's elements of predictive maintenance in your piece of equipment, whether it's, ordering a spare parts package, or just running diagnostic tests that are available in the equipment. In a freeze dryer, we suggest you run a leak test and an automated function test, and just running those on a regular basis will give you a lot of information about the health of your equipment.
Fantastic. Now, I know there is become a growing need for relocation services. Why is that? And what does that actually entail?
Yes. So We, prior to COVID, had done some relocation services on kind of an ad hoc basis, but with all of the closures and reopenings of COVID, a lot of people are looking to relocate or renovate or repurpose their lab and manufacturing spaces.
Right.
And so we developed kind of a formal program for relocation services where we'll send someone out to your initial site where the equipment is right now, sort of do a consultation with you about what your plans are. We will verify performance of the machine. We will deinstall it. We will kind of give you some assistance in what you need to do to package it and ship it appropriately. And then at the next site, when you're ready to go, we'll come out, we'll reinstall it, we'll revalidate it, and we'll even do preventative maintenance on it prior to getting it all up and running for you.
And how difficult is it when you're working with customers who have got different suppliers of equipment on one site and having to relocate all of those onto another site? I mean, is it a more collaborative effort than that you have to talk to the other suppliers with their equipment and make sure that you're all tied in together, or how does that work?
Yeah, we're typically working with a company that's managing the entire relocation.
Right.
Either they or the end user will contact us, but it's definitely really important to work with the manufacturer when you're relocating equipment, because there's just so much that can happen in a move, and so much that it helps to test before you even try to move the equipment, so you know that it was in a healthy state before it arrives at the location.
Brilliant. Okay. So, I mean, what do you think the future is then in terms of maintenance and servicing equipment? Because obviously the ideal scenario from a customer's point of view would be to buy a box, install it, and never have to worry about it ever again. And then until technology moves on, they might need to update the technology and so on. So what do you see the future in terms of maintenance and service and so on? And also, again, and as a layperson, and I'm not, you always are a bit wary when you hear people talk about maintenance contracts, because in the consumer market, they have got a bit of a bad rap in terms of extended warranties and so on. So what do you see the future for that sort of service within life science and obviously in pharma?
Yeah. So we're all familiar with the scam calls that go around these days for extended warranties on your car. So we do have to fight against that a little bit. But I think in terms of the future, we're going to see more and more reliance on predictive maintenance, especially for production style equipment. We are starting to introduce those elements into our equipment, but I think as that matures further, we'll see less waste in terms of materials, because we'll have a greater pulse on the equipment health and won't have to proactively replace as many components. And it also is, real time. It's not reliant on our field service engineer being there all of the time. It's able to prompt a customer to contact us if something is going wrong inside of the equipment. So I think ultimately that will be the tool of the future for equipment maintenance.
And can I ask, because again, you mentioned predictive maintenance a couple of times. So is that the use then of AI then and machine learning in terms of built into the equipment? And then that'll sort of alert people to, you've got to a certain stage, a bit like really basic. I know it's not the same thing. We're talking much larger equipment and so on, but like your printer and alert saying your toner's running out, for example, or your ink's running out, then you start to sort of alert people well in advance that should be doing something.
Yeah, so I think there's like a few levels of predictive maintenance as I see it. The first step is really to add sensors to the equipment or make better use of existing sensors.
Yep.
And we know the failure modes and the failure points on our equipment at this point. So it's really just integrating those known failure modes, that data into the software to prompt a customer to say, hey, you've run for this many hours, you should probably replace this component, or this thermocouple is reading too hot, you probably have an issue inside of the equipment. And that's sort of like basic predictive maintenance that we're building right now. The next level is to continuously monitor all of your sensors and their output and to feed them into an AI algorithm and look for anomalies. So once you've mapped known failure modes, you can map basically unknown failure modes with the anomaly detection, and that gives you another layer of information to predict unknown failure modes.
Well, I've got to say, that's been really interesting learning about that because actually it's an area I didn't really know much about. And you just think, oh, yeah, well, it's about engineers just popping out and seeing it. But the whole thing about predictive maintenance is actually really interesting, actually, and learning more about the algorithms and how machines can actually uh, self-learn, if you like, as time progresses. It is becoming a bit like the Terminator, though, isn't it, in terms of how everything is going? Yeah. But that's fantastic. Well, look, I wish you lots of success with looking after all your customers and all these new services that you're getting out there. It's been really interesting to find out more. Now, obviously, if people are at Interfex or any live shows that you're at, they can find out more. And I know you're at Interfex. Are there any other live events that you're going to be at over the next few months until the end of the year, or is Interfex the last major one that you're actually at this year?
Interfex is our last major show of the year, but we will be popping up at some smaller shows.
Okay, great. And if they can't see you at the show and find out more, where else can they get more information?
They can go to spscientific.com and request to contact us from there.
Fantastic. Well, look, it's lovely to meet you, Susan. The hockey season started, so hopefully the Flyers will have a good season. And the Phillies, I'm not the Phillies, they're out. The baseball season nearly finished, but I can't remember how the Eagles are doing actually with Jalen Hurts. So I think they've had a sort of a mixed start, haven't they, to the season so far?
Yeah, it's painful. The Eagles break my heart.
Yeah. Well, and how Penn State doing? Because I know you're a big Penn State fan. So how the Litany Lions doing?
Penn State is doing really well. Hopefully, Sean Clifford, our leading quarterback, got hurt in our last game. So I've got my fingers crossed.
Right. Well, I'm a Hurricanes fan and we're doing terribly. So I don't really want to talk about sports in general overall these days because all the teams I support are doing badly. But anyway, well, look, it was lovely to meet you. Enjoy the rest of the week. Good luck with all the service contracts that you'll help and your customers that you're helping with. And hopefully we can catch up again soon. So, viewers, I hope you found that useful. I mean, I certainly have. I've learned lots of new information there about how you can service and maintain pharmaceutical equipment and what the technology is being built into to help them run more efficiently in the future. So, if you'd like to know more, make sure you check out the SB Scientific products website. The link will be above the video. If you see them at any shows, make sure you have a chat with them there as well. And all that stuff we say, Susan, thank you very much. And thank you, viewers, for watching. As always, until next time, stay well and stay safe. Bye-bye.